Something I was thinking about with Martin and Malcolm. I recently, was talking about it on a video. Is that during that time, Malcolm X was very clear about the fundamentals and principles of the Nation of Islam. And although the NOI, or Nation of Islam, it didn't hold the exact same infrastructure, culture, or values as traditional Orthodox, Islam, such as, Sunni, Madhab, Hanbali, Salafi, or Shiite, things like that. But what it forbade or restricted was pretty much, consistent. And what I realized is that Malcolm X openly expressed the fact that in the Nation of Islam, they were teaching black men not to gamble, not to cheat, not to lie, not to steal, not to be violent to your brother, not to fornicate or commit adultery, not to drink alcohol, and also black economics was emphasized. And what makes this really threatening is the fact that there was order, there was discipline, there was accountability, infrastructure, not just ideals being passed around. The Nation of Islam, and I'm speaking from personal experience. I'm not speaking like an outsider. I'm not speaking like somebody who read a book. I grew up in the Nation of Islam. It raised me. It's why I think the way I think. It characterized me. I'm not an outside person, on the sideline guessing, what the fuck it means. I was raised in the Nation of Islam. I was 14 years old, troubled teen, going through all kinds of things, and they took me under their arm, and they developed my mind. They got my mind and developed it. That's why I'm able to think the way I think today. It's why I am who I am today. The Nation of Islam is no joke. It's not what it used to be. You know what I'm saying? I ain't gonna hold you. It's definitely not what it used to be. But in the 80s and 90s, early 2000s, I say up to 2005, it wasn't nothing to fuck with. I'm talking about it would have you sharp as a razor. I was dumbfounded by the character, the sharpness, and discipline of black men from the nation. I've never, until this day, seen better men in my life. So I'm emphasizing this because I'm letting you know I'm speaking from personal experience. And then when it comes to Sunni, Salafi, Hanbali, Shiite, Madhab, I've been in all those too. All my teenage years was in the Nation of Islam, okay? All my 20s was in all of the madhabs of traditional Orthodox Islam. So I've been in all those worlds. The Moor Science Temple of America, Pan-Africanism, Marcus Garvey, Zulu Nation, 5% Nation. I've been down with every last one of them, all of them, okay? And that may seem extreme, but as a New Yorker, it's not, because our world is so connected to everything that you could think of. I'm just saying. So anyway, give, just so you understand that I'm coming from an inside perspective that I really know this world. I know it through and thoroughly. And I know what Malcolm X's sentiments were because I was that person. You see what I'm saying? So anyway, he emphasized and proclaimed all the time about the fact that they were intentionally and deliberately cleaning black men up. They were cleaning up the neighborhoods. They were policing their own communities. They were showing accountability to their own men. We're not going to call the police. We going to come to the door of whoever violate around here. You caught abusing women, we going to come and see you. You caught playing with little girls or little kids, nigga, we coming to see you. You out here selling drugs, we coming to see you. You know what I'm saying? That was the attitude of the nation. That same attitude you saw reflected, of course, in the Black Panthers, Huey Newton, who formed a militant chapter in order to police our own communities. And that ascended to Folk Nation, People Nation, gang sets of Blood, Crips, so on and so forth, Peace Stones and, Vice Lords and all these other things. All of that branched off of, the same forefathers, that I mentioned to you before. And infiltration is what changed the intent of those sets. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't meant for selling drugs and exploiting a community. It was quite the opposite. It's why it originated. These little niggas out here don't even know why they doing what they doing. You know what I'm saying? They hold principles of Folk Nation, People Nation, Bloods, Crips, and other, gang sets and whatnot. It came from those same source teachings, which is why 5% Nation is really the essence of those teachings that they adhere to, But anyway, I say that to say this. Malcolm X was dangerous because he would cause, if everybody got on the same page with the vision that Malcolm X seen, it wasn't about the Nation of Islam. It was about the fact that infrastructure was presented. Regardless, rather, was the nation. If it would have been another movement, it still would have been the same. The point is, infrastructure, discipline, order was present. And the infrastructure, discipline, order, it was contrary to the social engineering agenda and schisms that Khazarians and white Christian nationalists preferred over black men. In other words, it would be better if black men was drinking, gambling, shooting each other, selling drugs, beating their wives or just hanging out being bums and unproductive, lacking discipline and all these other things. That's how they wanted us to be. It's how they preferred it. Because when you're unproductive like that, and when you're self-defeating like that, you continue to make money for them. Your dysfunction continues to make money for them. But you never become a competitor, you never become a challenger, and you never become the author of your own destiny. You're always ward of state. That's your status. You're always ward of state, and if you should speak, you're always found in contempt. Because the basis is your character. But when you clean black men up, there's nothing more dangerous in America. There's nothing more threatening in America than black men who are cleaned up. That scares the shit out of Khazarians and white Christian nationalists. Black men cleaned up in their character, their mindset refined. And what makes it threatening is not just their character, the fact that they have an order, organization, hierarchy, infrastructure to unify themselves in. When you have that infrastructure, but you're not including economics, it's not so much threatening. It's just missed opportunity because vices, it makes money. Okay? Drinking alcohol makes money. Gambling makes money. Okay? Violence makes money in dysfunction, domestic issues, that makes money. That keeps the courts making money. That keeps the state making money. That keeps, private prison industrial complex, making money. You see what I'm saying? On the back end. But when you add economic strategy to an infrastructure of sharp-charactered men who have found a single vision and unity, but it's not directly serving the agenda, intention, and aims of Khazarians and white Christian nationalists, it becomes a problem because now there could be the pending threat that that dollar is going to not serve their corporate agenda and state, but those men clarify how it will serve their social, domestic, and national state. Okay, I will use the word national because at that point, once you put economics to it, now you're nationalizing. You're nationalizing, and there's nothing more threatening than nationalizing because now you found your loophole out of that 14th Amendment subjugation. You've returned back to the Republican status that America was, rather than the corporate de facto corporation that it has become. And this, again, it brings back up. It brings back up memory of why the secret treaty of Verona was formed in the first place. You can't have men coming together, nationalizing, and then putting a dollar behind that status, that claim of status. There's nothing more threatening than that. And so that had to be the real problem with Malcolm X. It's seeing that segregation was no longer viewed as a punishment. It no longer was viewed as a means of control. Jim Crow was looked at as something that utterly failed in their face when they looked at somebody like Malcolm or Elijah Muhammad. And when they were able to see what it made of black men. Till this day, I have never seen better character than black men of those generations and up to my generation. I'm not saying myself, but up to my generation, okay, and what the Nation of Islam has done to black men or made of black men, I have never seen a better character. I have never seen a sharper mind state. When the Nation of Islam develops you, you ain't nothing to fuck with. Y'all should have known me when I was younger and sharper. I mean, I'm not as sharp as I was when I was in my, 20s and 30s. I have a lot more calm demeanor, but I wasn't nothing to fuck with. I guarantee you that. And there were many men like me. All the men, well, I say all the men were better than me. They were sharper than me. They were smarter than me. You know what I mean? And I know a whole bunch of me's, better than me's, nigga, somebody gonna be scared. Somebody gonna be scared out this motherfucker. Yeah. And what makes it, what puts real power behind that is the principles. Respecting women. You don't, you don't respect women. If you get caught as a Muslim, and and any Muslim that get caught disrespecting women, niggas coming to see you. Ain't nobody gonna call no police. Niggas coming to see you. You out here fornicating. You out here being promiscuous. You out here committing adultery. You out here, not doing right by family. The niggas coming to see you. It's not productive for a corporate state. It's not productive for a corporate machine. This country bets on, hopes on, waits on the dysfunction. It has to have dysfunction to thrive. There's got to be drinking. There's got to be gambling. There's got to be children out of wedlock. There's got to be violence and drug doing and drug selling. There has to be usury and interest, debts to the extremes, credit card debts. And this is why they need the spirit of the people to be in desperation. Because when your spirit's in desperation, you have no control over yourself, you have no control over your life, and everything about you benefits the one who does have control over their self and their life. You become a servant, you become a slave. And this is why when we're a slave to our desires, we become a slave to somebody who's a master of their desires. It's that simple. Bad character causes you to lose all your money, give all your money away. It causes you to become subject to servitude to somebody else who doesn't have that problem. Bad character is expensive. I could see the threat because the church wasn't able to do that. The black church couldn't do that. The black church couldn't clean black men up. The black church couldn't produce men with sharp minds in the black community. The black church couldn't give black men dignity. I'm gonna keep it a buck. When it comes to black men, black males and Christians, the first thing that comes to mind, a terrible diet, full of all kind of ailments and diseases, joints all fucked up, docile, yes sir massa, bitch made, unintelligent. They're not very bright. They're not sharp. They're not a threat. Christian black men are not anything impressive. There's nothing impressive about Christian black men. Nothing. That's like the slow group. And I'm just being honest. That's one of the things that turned me off from the church when I was 14 years old. I was 14 years old when I had this observation. I'm looking around, I had this observation because when I first laid eyes on black men from the Nation of Islam, and I saw how sharp they were, how disciplined they were, their mindset, the way that they spoke, the way that they carried themselves, their knowledge and discipline, And character, I can't say that today, that it's the same today. Things change drastically. Okay? But in that time, that's what won me over. That's what captivated me as a 14-year-old. It's the character. I was dumbfounded. I wanted to be just like them. I wanted to be smart. I wanted to be sharp. I wanted to be disciplined. I wanted to be strong. I wanted to have a beautiful character. I wanted to be somebody that others can look up to. I wanted to be just like them. But when I went into church and I saw Christian black men, I'm disgusted. I don't like what I seen. I don't respect what I seen. I don't admire what I seen. I don't look up to what I seen. I don't want to be like them niggas. They docile, they're fucking dumb, and they have terrible health. Why the fuck I want to be like a nigga from the church? That's my honest observation since I was 14. Niggas might not like what I'm saying, but I'm speaking from my inner child on this one. Like literally. It disgusted me. I can't stand to see black men who refuse to demonstrate and exemplify intelligence, discipline, good character, strength, trustworthiness, wisdom, good health. I get disgusted when I see less than that. As men, there's no other options for us. Nobody sympathizes with us. Either you choose to be that man or you don't, or you don't. I don't pity black men who refuse to rise to that status and character and mindset in themselves. I refuse to pity it. And I don't respect black men who choose not to be intelligent. I'm disgusted with it, to be honest with you. And so anyway, I went off on a tangent on that shit. But yo, that was a real, that in hindsight is really the threat. And I'm not, I'm using my personal local experience as a so-called Asiatic, man. But this apply to you too. It don't matter what your nationality or demographic or what country you from or things like that. Universal wisdom is universal wisdom. Anybody can apply it. And the insight that we all can take from it is bad character and dysfunction, it benefits them. But it damn sure don't benefit us. It benefits us the more we clean up our character, the more we love each other, the more unified we are, the more dangerous we are. And that's a fact. The more you respect women, the more dangerous you are. And that's a fact. The more women respect themselves, the more dangerous you are. And that's a fact. Because money can't be made off of you when you're whole, when you're healthy. They can't make money off of you when you're whole and healthy, except for fair entry into trade and commerce. That's the only way they're going to make money. Fair entry into trade and commerce. And that's really how it's supposed to be. Not as a consequence of your dysfunction. You know what I mean? And it's the same with traditional Orthodox Islam. That's really what's threatening. That's why they have to keep the campaign going for people to fear Muslims and fear black men, that combination, because when it comes to that combination, black men and Islam, that's dangerous. And they see it as dangerous because we absorb Islam so naturally, black men. And when we put it into practice, us American black men, we become dangerous because we become effective. We become charismatic. We become influential. And we break barriers. We break barriers that benefits all people. And we do it over and over and over again. Out of Islam came many heroes. The 5% Nation produced many heroes and influences. They got to consistently vilify to make sure that there's never another Napoleon Bonaparte. Secret Treaty of Verona. Pay attention. Understand that. The ATF, alcohol, tobacco, and firearms, it was created to protect really commerce and taxation, in that department. Y'all remember when alcohol was banned in America? And then they had to turn right back around, reintroduce it because the mob started making all that good alcohol money. And America's like, nah, we need to make that money. Same thing they doing now with weed, with marijuana. There's no moral reason why they make policies. I'm not going to say law because a republic has law. Democracy has policy because it's a corporate state and statutes. So anyway, these policies have nothing to do with moral reasons. They pitch it to you as moral reasons, but it's never a moral reason. You have to remember, I have to remember, they do not come from Cancer. They come from Capricorn. When they're speaking to Cancer, so they use the language of Cancer. You, the people, Cancer. Okay? You, the people, are Cancer. The moon represents people of society, Cancer. They are they are Capricorn. So they're speaking with the intent and mindset of Capricorn, and it ain't about sentiment. It's a devil card all day. It's a dry shadow devil card. Number 8, shadow. So you have to keep that in mind. They will pitch to you a moral intent, but it ain't got nothing to do with that. Nothing at all. It's about the dollar, making money. It is always going to be about that. If too many Americans become Muslim, or if the culture of Islam becomes influential and start to spread, not enough alcohol is going to get sold. It's not going to be enough adultery and fornication. It's not going to be enough gambling. It's not going to be enough dysfunction in families, divorce court, and, all these different things. How are they going to make money from dark energies? They won't be able to make money from dark energies if the people are healed and whole. I'm not saying that Islam is the only pathway by which you can obtain that. I'm not even, recommending or suggesting it to you. Because it's not only through Islam that we can achieve wholeness, that we can achieve, in integrity with ourselves so that we build an immunity to these diseases and traps by which they're able to extract so much value out of us, but we don't get the benefit from the value that's with us, but we lose it. We have to heal ourselves. We have to purify ourselves. We have to cure ourselves of dysfunction, iniquities, and the contaminations of the soul and the heart, because this is really what gives leaks to the pockets. It is really what keeps us broken, stressed, and depressed, and all these other different things. When we become whole and we heal from these vices, we become immune to everything they're trying to do. Especially when man and woman becomes one instead of two. That's why I say y'all better watch that shit with feminism. I'm just saying.